You're listening to Big World Network.
Incubus, Season 5, Episode 10. Written and read by Amanda Meuwissen. The next morning was it, time to say goodbye. They had stayed long enough to help and to at least get Nathan used to his medication so that he wouldn't be a complete lump while he continued recovering. They couldn't waste any more time, though. Nathan's time was running out, and every second counted. Before they left, Sasha called everyone together into the bar area and had Wally stand where everyone could see her. "I think we have this down, Alex, if you'll give us a chance," Sasha said. Alex nodded. "Just so long as she isn't any trouble." "You gonna glamour her?" Nathan asked. The Incubus shook his head. "I could, but it would wear off as soon as I got too far away. There are limitations. No, I had something else in mind. See, I figured I could train her to shapeshift on her own. It wasn't easy, and I had to pick something that looks as close as possible to how she really is, but... Ready, Wally?" He turned to the little ball of fluff. A chirp responded, and the chimera gave a little jump. "Okay," Sasha said. "What do you do if you see anyone other than one of us?" he asked, indicating those gathered around her. Wally chirped again. Then, with another jump, she suddenly wasn't Wally anymore, but was instead a very small, plump, and fluffy gray tabby cat. "Ta-da!" Sasha smiled. "That's awesome," Nathan said, crouching down and calling Wally over to him, who bounded into his arms happily. "I wouldn't know the difference at all," he admitted, petting the purring cat in his arms. "And she can change back when it's just you, Alex," Sasha said to her. "If she sees anyone but us, she knows to be a cat. You can tell her to keep the transformation constant when someone's staying here longer, too. So, you gonna keep her?" All eyes turned from the new gray cat to the owner of the gatehouse. Even under all that scrutiny, Alex allowed a smile and stepped over to Nathan to pat Wally on the head. "You know the rules?" she asked the chimera sternly, despite her retained smile. Wally meowed in response. "Fine by me, then," Alex said, plucking Wally out of Nathan's arms. "But if we have any trouble," she said to Sasha, "you're the first one I'm calling." "Any time," Sasha smiled. Nathan reached to pat Wally on the head one last time. Their things were already in the car outside. "Guess we better head on out, then. Thanks for the great New Year's, Al. Been a long time since I remember one that fun." He looped an arm around her shoulders to hug her, without crushing Wally between them. Sasha came forward next for the same half-hug. But before he could back away, Alex passed Wally into his arms. She turned to Jim with her hands planted on her hips. "You're coming to visit more often. I know it's dangerous, but Gabriel's gone, and Sasha gives you an advantage. You can risk running into seals to see me. Okay?" While the command seemed to be directed at all of them, her focus was entirely on Jim. Jim nodded, but Nathan could tell that discovering his amber-eyed persona had set Jim back again, and he wasn't sure he trusted himself to be around Alex. Jim still moved forward to hug her goodbye, but Alex was having none of it. She grabbed either side of his face before he could wrap his arms around her, and kissed him soundly on the lips. "Couldn't let you get away without doing that this time. Not after seeing Sasha do it, anyway," she grinned. Jim let out a short chuckle despite himself, and Nathan exchanged a pleased glance with Sasha. "You come see me again soon, and keep me posted on your progress, okay?" Alex ordered once again. "I will," Jim said, and as much as Nathan still saw the doubt and fear in Jim's eyes, he thought maybe Jim meant those words, and that he was actually allowing himself to consider a future in which he might one day get what he wanted. That's all Nathan would ever wish for. "Just passed into Pennsylvania," Sasha called back from the driver's seat to a recently awakened Nathan who had been napping. "We can stop tonight, then catch a doorway to Maine tomorrow. Jim's been going over the notes we gathered about this new lead. It's not much, but better than nothing." Nathan nodded as he sat up in the back. His meds still made him a little groggy, but he decided not to fight it when he actually had the chance to take a nap. "There's this historical building in Ellsworth," Jim explained. "After the curator died, it was shut down, closed up completely. There were reports of squatters after a while, and when the police caught them, it's hard to say what really happened to them, but they were incapable of speech, basic motor functions, almost everything, and yet they were still awake and alert. If the building is cursed or under some sort of spell, it could be the work of a dark fae. We're pretty confident it's a good lead, and since the building is closed up, we should be able to get inside to investigate without much trouble." Nathan nodded again. Should be pleased they had a lead at all, and a direction to go, but with the way some things had been progressing, his dreams, Jim's sleepwalking, those red-on-black eyes tied to it all, ignorance inside the gatehouse had been a nice, if short-lived bliss. As they continued to drive, Nathan looked to Walter sitting beside him. His spirit guide hadn't been all that vocal since they left the gatehouse. Maybe he was finally accepting that the doom and gloom wasn't working on Nathan. Unless there was some actual solutions in what Walter had to say, Nathan didn't want to hear it. But he also hated the silent treatment. "You want reassurance," Walter said, looking to Nathan with a sad smile, as if he had read Nathan's thoughts. Sometimes Nathan wondered if Walter could read his thoughts as easily as Sasha read emotions. "I have been able to surmise from conversation that you revealed to Jim what has been happening to him with the amber eyes. That is good. I sense a certain calm and confidence in him now that I had not before. It's a strength that dulls the pulse of dark power I had been fearing, and I can admit to you, Nathan, it gives me hope. Perhaps you can save your brother as he strives to save you. All I ask is that you be cautious. Never let your guard down. Wade's reading told you that Sasha was the key to your salvation, not Jim's. Please keep that in mind." Nathan felt a wave of relief at Walter's words, much as there was still warning in them, and for once he didn't feel like keeping the conversation to himself. He smiled at Walter, nodded assuredly, then turned to his companions in the front. "Hey guys, Walter says we've got a good thing going. Might just pull this off after all. Let's keep it up." He patted Jim's shoulder, then settled back into his seat again. After pulling over for the night and getting a couple of rooms at their newest motel, they grabbed a booth at a simple bar and restaurant nearby. Nathan really needed a drink, though he knew it wouldn't mix well with his medications if their night with 4 bottles of wine had taught him anything, so he ordered a soda instead. His chest still ached, and probably would for a few more weeks, but at least the wound on his leg had healed over again. An hour or so passed uneventfully, and they had all pretty well cleaned their plates and were ready to leave, when Nathan reached into his jacket for his wallet to pay, and noticed the scanner in his inside pocket flashing. Sasha had helped him tweak it before they left the gatehouse, adding an additional rune so that the device wouldn't pick up Sasha. "If you really want this to be useful, you don't want it picking up me," Sasha had said. "You're almost always around me. It'll be blinking the whole time. I'd prefer you were safe from any others of my kind instead." As those words were played in Nathan's mind, he closed his jacket and looked across the table at the Incubus. Sasha's face had gone pale. Jim, next to Nathan, looked like he was sensing something too. "Is that what I think it is?" Nathan asked. It was easy to see the large lump that had formed in Sasha's throat. When he spoke, his voice shook. "I can sense another Incubus in the restaurant." At first, Nathan felt himself itching for the small blade he carried at his ankle, but then he came back to his senses. "But you're kinda usually good guys, right?" Sasha shrugged, still looking concerned. Then Nathan realized why. Sasha wasn't exactly on friendly terms with any of his kind, only his aunt. All the others thought of him as an outcast. He was an outcast. He was a seal, and he had been banished for it. It was too late to say anything to soothe Sasha, because his blue eyes lifted, wide and unreadable, to land on someone coming from behind Nathan and Jim's backs. Nathan followed Sasha's frightened gaze and saw what appeared to be a beautiful young woman with ginger hair and eyes like a thunderstorm. A succubus, which surprised Nathan since Sasha had said he sensed a male. Then Nathan was surprised again. "Sasha?" she said with perfect recognition, coming to a stop beside their table. Stumbling upon a random succubus was one thing, but one with silvery doe eyes who knew Sasha personally was totally different. Sasha hadn't ever mentioned any exes, well, anyone who he had been with for longer than a night, but that didn't mean he didn't have any. It made Nathan scowl to think that might be what she was. The girl was gorgeous, too, wearing a burgundy one-shoulder shirt, jeans, and a silver necklace that sported 2 rings as a pendant and rested gently on her chest. Nathan wondered if the rings had the same significance as his own. Her hair was like new copper, shimmering and hanging straight and thick past her shoulders with wispy bangs. Her trim figure was very different from Shiera's voluptuousness, and she had a dusting of freckles across her cheeks. There was also that ethereal glow to her eyes that told Nathan, definitely not human. Sasha sat frozen at first, watching her as she watched him. Then the slightly shocked expression melted from the girl's face, and as soon as she smiled, soft and hopeful, Sasha broke into a smile too. He was out of the booth then, hugging her. "Karis!" Sasha sighed like the greatest relief, enveloping the delicate-looking girl. You look so—" he trailed, pulling this Karis person away so he could hold her out in front of him and look her over. "So grown up," he finally finished. Karis laughed, a shy giggle. "You too. I almost didn't recognize you. The hair gave you away, though." She smirked a little as a hand came up to brush through Sasha's Crayola red locks. Their smiles were so affectionate toward each other that Nathan felt his jaw unintentionally clench. He hated being on the inside of the booth, blocked off by Jim. "Hey," he said, and Sasha and the girl turned to him. "Introductions might be nice." "Oh, right," Sasha smiled sheepishly, like maybe he had forgotten Nathan and Jim were there. "Nathan, Jim, this is Karis. We grew up together." "Nice to meet you," Jim said with genuine friendliness. "Karis, huh? That's an interesting name." Karis's smile flashed a little wider. "It's for charismatic. I think my parents were being wishful thinkers." Jim returned her smile and gave a polite chuckle. "I get the feeling you're probably being modest." "Sorta goes with the territory being a succubus, right?" Nathan chimed in, noting how startled Karis looked upon hearing that he knew what she was. "Unless there's some incubus-succubus transvestite thing I'm not aware of." Nathan immediately felt Jim's foot stomp down onto his, and he turned a ready glare on his brother in rebuke. "What he means is," Sasha said, before turning back to Karis, "well, before I thought I sensed an incubus." Karis's expression maintained its look of unease, and her eyes darted from the brothers back to Sasha, like she had something to say, but wasn't sure how to word it. Then a new voice sounded close beside their booth, this one undeniably male. "You did," it said, fiercely low, and not at all pleasant. Nathan saw an arm reach for Karis before he saw the whole man, and when this new stranger stepped forward, jerking Karis away from Sasha to rest securely and possessively against him instead, Nathan knew to be worried. A quick glance at Sasha confirmed that thought. The redhead looked downright scared now. "Lynn." Nathan eyed this newcomer, and would have laughed if the air wasn't so thick with tension. The guy looked that same end-all incubus age of 25, but he had white hair. Not platinum, white. The hair was longer than Sasha's, though not quite as shaggy as Jim's, and his eyes were an angry, intense green. It made Nathan think of nuclear waste or acid. The guy's expression sure was acidic enough. "Lindsay, please," Karis said, turning in her companion's hold to stare at him beseechingly. He ignored her, and kept his eyes dead-centered on Sasha. Nathan almost expected to start picking up on the sounds of growling. "Okay," Nathan said, holding up his hands in hopes of deflating things before this guy threw any punches, which, for some reason, he looked very close to doing. "Nobody wants a fight here. Why don't we all just stay calm and stay out of it?" The white-haired incubus snarled at Nathan, more than just growling, but flashing red eyes and fangs for a moment, too. Nathan felt something like fear climb up the back of his neck. He'd be damned if he'd show it, though. Karis was still trying to calm her. Well, Nathan assumed Lindsay was more than just her friend. "Lindsay," she implored again, a hand pressed gently to his chest. "After all this time—"
"Don't you even begin to defend him,"
Lindsay said, his almost neon green eyes looking down on Sasha with revulsion. Looking down literally, Nathan realized, because Lindsay was just as trim as Sasha, but he was at least a couple inches taller.
"Sitting here with other seals, no doubt."
"Hey, we're not," Nathan tried, but Lindsay flashed him another glare. With an arm around Karis, tight in his claim over her, Lindsay snarled one final blow at Sasha before walking away. "Traitor." Karis looked back in apology as they left, but she still went with him. As angry as Nathan was at the encounter, he realized that what bothered him the most was how Sasha had just stood there. Not once had Sasha raised his voice to defend himself. Instead, he had kept his head lowered, like a child being scolded, as if he believed he deserved that treatment. Nathan might have let his anger show if it weren't for the way Sasha's brilliant blue eyes were swimming. "Hey," he prompted, since Sasha was just standing beside their booth, staring at nothing. He waited a moment for Sasha to turn to him, but when that didn't happen, he hip-checked Jim in an effort to get out of the booth. Once they were both on their feet next to Sasha, Nathan forced a smile and said, "So, who was that asshole, huh?" That at least got Sasha to raise his head, but he didn't look at either of the brothers. A sickly smile crossed his face, like he was trying so hard not to cry. It broke Nathan's heart to hear an exhaled, false laugh before Sasha finally said, "My best friend. I need to, I'm just going to—" He trailed, and before Nathan could think of anything to say, Sasha bolted for the bathroom. "Sasha!" Jim called as the redhead hurried off. He turned back to Nathan almost immediately, expectant. Nathan pushed Jim in the direction of the bathroom. "Go check on him." An almost painful grip took hold of Nathan's arm before he could take 2 steps toward the main door. "What are you going to do?" Nathan shrugged, only turning to face Jim halfway. "Just thought I'd get some air." "Nathan!" "What? There's a law says I can't get air?" "Nathan!" Jim said more firmly. "Don't do anything stupid." This time Nathan did turn fully to face Jim, and cracked his most unassuming smile. "Don't know what you mean, Jim. Now get your ass in that bathroom and make sure Sasha's okay." Jim frowned, but soon released him and headed for the bathroom. Nathan didn't look back again as he turned to head for the main door.
You're listening to Big World Network.